Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back, everybody. We have been studying the text from Risale-i Nur, where Bediüzzaman discusses why there is rivalry and competition and conflict among believers, whilst people of disbelief, they seem to be cooperating, collaborating, and in sync, completely different outlook. He explains in few points why this might be the case. We have so far covered the first 5 causes, and today we are gonna read the 6th cause, according to Bediüzzaman, why believers seem to be in constant conflict and rivalry. As always, I shall be covering the text line by line and occasionally stopping and giving explanation. Okay, the 6th cause of discord among the people of truth. This does not arise from lack of manliness, aspiration, and similarly, the wholehearted union among the misguided, neglectful, and worldly people with respect to their worldly affairs does not result from manliness, aspiration, and zeal. In other words, when believers have conflict and lack of cooperation, this is not because they don't have aspiration, they don't have zeal. And similarly, people of disbelief, they do not cooperate because they got higher values, lofty aspiration, and zeal. This is not the case. Whilst I'm reading the text, I hope you can also see on your screens the original text itself. This translation was made by an English person called Mary Weld, who happens to live not far from where I live in England. I know her in person. She's a fantastic person. She's done a great service to Risale-i Nur. One thing I realized in her translation, this is her translation we are reading at the moment, it is almost identical and it sounds almost like the original text. There are other translations which are modernized and simplified, but I like sticking to this one because if you are bilingual, if you are reading Risale-i Nur in its original and in English, this is almost a perfect match. Some people may find it a bit difficult to understand, but I always argue reading Risale-i Nur from this translation is a bit like reading Shakespeare. I'm sure you can have a simpler modern version of Shakespeare's writings, but then you miss the point because the man reflects the language and the spirit of its time. Bediüzzaman does the same thing. I'm sure you can take this paragraph and make it sound a lot simpler, a lot more modern, but I'm against that idea. Someone even said, "Oh, this sounds so archaic," but yeah, that's the main point. So don't be put off with the language. This is how the original text sounds. I'll continue from the text. It is rather that the people of truth are generally concerned with benefits to be had in the hereafter, and hence direct their zeal, aspiration, and manliness to those important, numerous matters, Since they do not devote time, the true capital of man, to a single concern, their union with their fellows can never become firm. Their concerns, the believers' concerns, are numerous and of a wide scope. As for the neglectful and worldly people who only work for the world, Ahl dunya, worldly, they think only of the life of this world, and they firmly embrace the concerns of the life of this world with all their senses, their spirit and heart, and cling firmly to whoever aids them in those concerns. In one of the previous talks, probably I mentioned Risale-i Nur shouldn't be taken as a pure religious text. The author has a fantastic understanding of multiple disciplines: human psychology, sociology, geography, science. You can find a bit of everything in his writings. So, this analysis of why believers are in constant dispute and why these believers are cooperating, this is spot on observation. We are all believers. Probably, if you're watching this, so are you. What is your priority in life? Is it getting a bigger house, getting a faster car, owning land, I don't know, getting lots of shares and some bitcoins? Or do you ask yourself, do you have other higher purposes in life? As an average believer, I can tell you my personal priority is none of those worldly gains. Yes, it matters to have a house you can call home to live in. You need a roof on top of your head. Yes, you need mobility, you need some sort of transport. Yes, you need some sort of device to communicate, a laptop or something to sit on, some sofa, whatever. But I really don't see a point of going to this high-end sofa shop. There is one in where I live. When I cycle past, he's got a massive window. I just look through the window and the guy is selling a sofa for only 4,999, like £5,000. I'm like, who in their right mind spent £5,000 for something to sit on? Well, there are people out there that really matters. They really don't mind paying that £5,000 for that sofa. But for me, for a believer, it doesn't really matter because my priority is not to gain that. Something to sit on is fine. If there isn't anything, I'm happy to sit on the floor. This is the general mindset of an average believer because we are geared towards succeeding in the hereafter. We don't choose life in this world, in this dunya. We prefer akhirah, in the hereafter. This is the general default position of most believers. This also applies to other believers, Christians, for example. I have very good Christian friends, and I sometimes observe they live more pious life than, I don't know, average Muslim. You see Muslims trying to do a bit of a show off, but you see some true Christians, fantastic. They live very pious life. I was talking to my good friend who's a professor at Leeds University. We hang out a lot together and we did read Arabic and stuff, and we did a lot of small talk. And we were talking about this English person, public figure, famous. I'm not gonna give his name because this has been recorded and it's gonna appear on YouTube, so I don't want people, coming back to me. I was praising that person, and he said in Arabic, half English, half Arabic, he said, "Brother, that man is a Zaid." I mean, very pious. I said, this man is a bit like Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet, alayhi wasalam. And he used this expression. He says, this man is a Zaid. That's the more accurate expression. So my point is, genuine believers, they tend to value hereafter more than this world. Therefore, how do I win in the hereafter as opposed to how do I win in this life? Well, in this life, you have to be part of a team, you have to chip in, you have to add your force, invest in stuff, work hard, that kind of stuff. You need to bring your forces together to set up a big company, do big business, and earn big money. Whereas if you're working for the hereafter, you seem to think, well, I can do it on my own in my own private time. So I don't need to cooperate and collaborate with anyone else. So this is the observation of Bediüzzaman. Let's continue from the text. Okay. Their concern, the believers' concern, are numerous and of a wide scope. As for the neglectful and worldly, they think only of the life of this world, and they firmly embrace the concerns of the life of this world with all their senses, their spirit and heart, and cling firmly to whoever aids them in those concerns. Like a mad diamond merchant who gives an exorbitant price for a piece of glass worth virtually nothing, they devote time which is of the highest value to matters which in reality and in the view of the people of truth are nothing. If you think about what Elon Musk is working for, I mean, as a scientist, I'm fascinated. As an engineer, I take my hat off. Brilliant. But as a believer, I'm just really thinking, I mean, his ambition of, I don't know, going to Mars and colonizing, does it add any value? Does it give any value? From personal perspective, not really, because we are all gonna die, and there is gonna be an eternal life in the hereafter. And what matters the most is not colonizing some planet, but what you invest for your hereafter. But Bediüzzaman likens this type of ambitious people to silly diamond merchants. He thinks he's buying a diamond, but it's just piece of junk. Scientifically, it's impressive, but in real value, from the perspective of a believer, well, I mean, it's a junk, really. I mean, imagine you took that spacecraft to Mars and landed. Okay, settled, fantastic. And you died. Will it get you any credit when you die? Will you say, "Oh yeah, I took that spaceship and colonized Mars"? Does it get you anything? Not really. But if you stay in this world and if you've done something good for people, for planet, probably you would get more reward. But anyway, the main point is valuing the wrong things excessively. So it's like a mad diamond merchant. So that who gives of the highest value to matters which in reality in the view of people of truth are worth nothing. Paying such a high price And offering oneself with the devotion of all the senses will naturally result in a wholehearted sincerity that yields success in the matter at hand, so that the people of truth are defeated. As a result of this defeat, the people of the truth decline into a state of abasement, humiliation, hypocrisy, and ostentation, and sincerity is lost. Thus, the people of truth are obliged to flatter and cringe before a handful of vile and lowly men of the world. This was the social and psychological analysis of people who work for the hereafter and people who only work for this life. Now, he's telling us, O people of truth, O people of the law, people of reality, and people of the path, all worshiping God. Confronted by this awesome disease of discord, overlook each other's faults, close your eyes to each other's shortcomings, behave according to the rule of the courtesy established by the criterion of the Quran. And the Quran says, when they pass by error, they pass by it with honorable avoidance. I will just quickly find the actual Quranic verse. Let me just quickly get the original verse. This is Surah Al Furqan, verse 72. It says, I'm looking on that screen, and they are those who do not testify the falsehood, and they, when they pass near ill speech, they pass by with dignity. والذين لا يشهدون الزور وإذا مروا باللغو مروا كراما. So this is Surah Al-Furqan, verse number 72. وَإِذَا مَرُّوا بِاللَّغْوِ مَرُّوا كِرَامًا. When they pass near ill speech, they pass by with dignity. So when you hear anything evil, basically the Quran says, don't look back and bark at it and try to respond to it. This is a Quranic instruction, and Bediüzzaman says whoever reads and studies Risale-i Nur gets this quality. He becomes a wise person. He becomes a person who acts by the Quranic standards. One of them is this. وَإِذَا مَرُّوا بِاللَّغْوِ مَرُّوا كِرَامًا. Another one is وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. When they bump into a bunch of ignorant people, they just say, peace be on you, and they move on. This happens to me a lot because when I'm in social media watching reels or I don't know, tweets and stuff, I get angry because there are people out there whose main job is to be provocative, irritate you, annoy you so you can come back and respond to him, shout at him, say things to him. But we are the student of the Quran. We just walk away and it says, قالوا سلاما, peace be on you. لنا عملنا ولكم عملكم. What we do is for us, what you do is for you. So this is a Quranic wisdom, and Bediüzzaman says this should be your life principle. I was having another talk with my Egyptian professor friend. I don't know if I mentioned this. He's Egyptian. That's why we were studying Arabic together. He's a professor at Leeds University, but Egyptian, so I'm really interested in learning. And one time when we were talking about these Quranic verses, I said, oh, in Turkish there is this expression, don't throw a stone to every barking dog. Probably you know something like this. And he said, oh, we got something similar in Egyptian Arabic. And he actually shared me the text. It's somewhere on my WhatsApp. It goes like this. If you throw a stone to every barking dog, the stone becomes a dinar. It becomes valuable. So it is like, don't throw a stone to every barking dog, basically. Uh, you can search this. The Egyptian maxim, Egyptian saying that if you throw a stone to every barking dog, the stone becomes a dinar. It becomes valuable. So don't waste your time and effort. It is the manifestation of Ism Hakim. Allah is Hakim. He has the wisdom. And if you study Quran and if you study Risale-i Nur, you get bit of that wisdom in yourself. You don't get angry easily. You don't shout and scream and swear. You don't go violent. And people who have been abused badly over the last 10 years, I have never seen any of them, shouting, screaming, swearing, turning violent. It is actually the reflection of this being wise as a Quran student, as Risale-i Nur student. So the Quran says, when they pass by error, they pass it with honorable avoidance. وَإِذَا مَرُّوا بِاللَّغْوِ مَرُّوا كِرَامًا. So it is a slogan we should, hang on our wall and keep remembering this all the time. Coming back to the text, regarding it as your primary duty, one on which your states in the hereafter depends, to abandon internal dissension when attacked by an enemy from the outside, and thereby to deliver the people of truth from their abasement and humiliation. Practice the brotherhood, love, and cooperation insistently, enjoined by hundreds of Quranic verses and traditions of the Prophet, upon whom be peace. Establish with all your powers a union with your fellows and brothers in religion that is stronger than the union of the worldly. Do not fall into dispute. Do not say to yourself, well, instead of spending my valuable time on such petty matters, let me spend it on more valuable things, such as the invocation of God and meditation, then withdrawing and weakening unity. For precisely what you imagine to be a matter of slight importance in this moral jihad may in fact be very great. In just the same way that under certain special, unusual conditions, the watch kept for 1 hour by a soldier may be equal to whole year's worship. In this age, when the people of truth have been defeated, that precious day that you spend on some apparently minor matter concerning the moral struggle may be worth 1,000 days, just like the hour of that soldier. Whatever is undertaken for the sake of God cannot be divided into small and great, valuable and valueless. So you shouldn't think, okay, so I might earn more good deed if I'm on my own in isolation. I can read Quran, do my worship. I'm not going to interact with anyone. This may look valuable, but in reality, according to Bediüzzaman, if you cooperate with other fellow believers, you give community a strength. Everybody feels stronger. And although it looks trivial at first, in real value, it has greater value than you being in isolation and doing your own things on your own. So always be part of a congregation, always be part of a group who is working for good, and always support other fellow believers. When it comes to this, probably, we all have, we are all Muslim in general, but Bediüzzaman was quite open when it comes to cooperating with Christians as well. I keep mentioning fellow Christians. Supporting their cause is also part of our responsibility. But it is so weird that Muslims and Christians, in reality, they are the closest two brothers than any other two belief systems. But there is this artificial separation and artificial rivalry created between them. And Bediüzzaman says, in the future, Ahir Zaman, he says Muslims and Christians will get together and cooperate and unite their forces to fight against aggressive atheism. So he encourages dialogue, interfaith dialogue, supporting fellow believers. Because we got so many things in common. To start with, we believe in same God. And we believe in their prophet. And most of them, they accept our prophet as a true prophet. I was watching, probably you do a lot of social media watching. Someone was talking to this, I think Tucker Carlson. He was talking about Muslims' view of Christianity. And the guy just got shocked. I mean, in Muslim culture, we got names like Isa, very common. Isa, that's Jesus. We have very common name, Musa, Moses. Very common name, Dawood, David. They are our true prophets. But you ask a Christian or a Jew, probably they wouldn't know that Muslims highly value all those prophets. Coming back to the text, not only among just Muslims, we should be supporting other fellow believers like Christians. An atom expanded in sincerity and for the sake of God's pleasure becomes like a star. What is important is not the nature of the means employed, but the result that it yields. As long as the result is God's pleasure, Risale-i Ilahi, God's pleasure, and the substance employed is sincerity, any means to which recourse is had will be great, not small. Okay, so this is bringing us to the end of 6th course. I'll stop here, and we're going to continue with the 7th course on our next session. As always, I always recommend, this is kind of historic text. The language is not very modern, and I usually don't expect the reader, the listener, to understand everything in full in one go. This is the 6th course. It is accessible online. I suggest it's just one page we cover today. Once you watch this, you can always go and have a read in your own time. I'm sure it's gonna boost and improve your understanding. Okay, I'm stopping here. I'll see you with the 7th course on the next lesson. See you later.